So again, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest webinar in our Wellness webinar series. We're delighted to have you join us for today's topic, which is Secure Attachments Start Here, Make the Connection Parenting Program, presented by Dr. Nicole Racine and Desiree Jones. My name is Siobhan, and I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships here at Strong Minds, Strong Kids, Psychology Canada. And I'd like to walk you through a few housekeeping items before I introduce you to our speaker today. So again, this webinar will be recorded today, and we'll distribute the recording to all participants soon after the presentation. It will also be posted on our website. Second, the webinar will be about 60 minutes long, including a Q&A period, and we'll be fielding questions for Dr. Racine and Desiree throughout the session. So please go ahead and ask your questions throughout. And in order to ask your question, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen and type in your question there. We'd also like to get a sense of who is with us today, and I'm going to pull up a couple of polls to get to know our audience even better. So just bear with me while I find those polls. Okay, the first question is, where are you joining us from today? I see some results coming in. Right. All right. So I see that we have like a large number from Ontario and Quebec. We have some folks joining us also from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta, our prairie region, and also some folks from the Atlantic region. Welcome, and our West Coast in BC. So welcome to all. Just one more question. In the back. Who is joining us today? Great. Folks are just getting their answers in. Okay. All right, so we mainly have professionals that work with children who are joining us today, but we also have some parents and also those who wear both hats as parents and professionals working with children. So welcome again. Okay, so Strong Minds, Strong Kids Psychology Canada offers webinars that provide valuable insights and information to key adult caregivers, including teachers, early childhood educators, nurses, and parent caregivers who work with and live with babies, school-age children, and youth. You can check out our website at www.strongmindsstrongkids.org for more information. And here's just a little video about us.
They tell us to be strong, to stand up for what we believe is right, to chase our dreams, to be exactly who we want to be, without settling for less, without fear, without that voice in the back of our heads saying we're not good enough. They tell us to be strong-minded, but they don't tell us how to build a strong mind. Thankfully for us, Strong Minds, Strong Kids is there to help. They offer psychology-based, evidence-informed programs, tools, and resources that could help me develop the mental strength I need to face all the ups and downs in life, because they believe that we're the future. They believe that the tallest towers have the strongest foundations.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Desiree. Love it when that happens. So that's about us. And today we'll be talking about our Make the Connection program and our new online resource for parents and caregivers with children 0 to 3 years old. At the end of the webinar today, we'll also provide you with more information about how parents can access the program at no cost through generous funding we received from the Hodgson Family Foundation. Okay, so we'll just quickly start with a land acknowledgement. Strong Minds, Strong Kids Psychology Canada's head office is located on sacred land that has been a site of human activity for over 15,000 years. This land is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Wendat, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We acknowledge that the City of Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaty, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. We acknowledge these nations and any other recorded or unrecorded First Peoples who cared for the land as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. As settlers, we entered into an agreement to share this land equitably. As settlers, this recognition of the contributions and historic importance of Indigenous peoples must be overtly connected to our collective commitment to make the promise of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. We're grateful for the opportunity to work with communities and on this territory. Now I'd like to introduce you to our speakers today. So Dr. Nicole Racine is a postdoctoral fellow at University of Calgary, Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute. She completed her PhD in clinical developmental psychology at York University with a predoctoral residency in pediatric and clinical child psychology at the Alberta Children's Hospital in 2016. She has been a registered and practicing psychologist with the College of Alberta Psychologists since April 2017. Her research and clinical interests as a child psychologist focus on maternal child mental health, trauma-informed care, and risk and resilience factors that are associated with young children's mental health. Nicole is also the chair of our 0 to 3 committee and is currently working on the Make the Connection direct-to-parent pilot with other members of our task force and also doing some research on it as well. Desiree Jones, her has focused the past 18 years of her career on working within the mental health sector as both a clinical leader and registered psychotherapist. Much of Desiree's career has been focused on system transformation and child and youth mental health, specifically in increasing access and improved resourcing. She has extensive training in the areas of solution-focused brief therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, and mindfulness approaches with a focus on child and youth development. Desiree's experiences have included long-term care settings, clinical trainer and psychotherapist for an international employee assistance program, counseling manager for a national children's helpline, and management roles at the lead child and youth mental health agencies for 2 regions. Currently, Desiree is the co-chair of the certification committee for the Ontario Association for Mental Health Professionals and on the board for the Brampton Library. Desiree completed both her degree in the United Kingdom, Bachelor of Science, Honours in Psychology at the University of Wales, Cardiff, and her Master of Science in Clinical Psychology at the University of Wales, Bangor. During her studies, her research in the areas of self-harm and how service users experience mental health services was published in both English and in Welsh. So welcome to Dr. Nicole Racine and Desiree. Over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Siobhan, for those introductions. And thank you to everyone for joining us today. We're really excited and actually delighted to be able to talk to you about the Make the Connection program. Our plan for today is that we'll talk a little bit about the background of the program and its theoretical foundations. And then one thing that I think will be really fantastic is we'll walk you through components of the program itself, and you'll actually get to see behind the curtain, get to see inside what the program looks like. So we know, and anyone who's a child caring professional on this call, and if you're a parent like Desiree and I, you're actually living this in your day-to-day life. But we know that infants, they don't come with a manual, and that sometimes developing a strong and connected relationship with your child can be challenging, particularly if you're facing stressors like isolation, a lack of social support, or mental health challenges. And so it can be really helpful to have programs and information that in the face of these stressors can help you feel competent and provide you with information that's helpful. Next slide, please. So Make the Connection is an evidence-based parenting program, and it's been around for the last 20 years, initially delivered and continues to be delivered in person to thousands of parents to help promote parenting self-competence and attitudes towards parenting. And before the pandemic, the program was delivered weekly in 9 sessions, often through various public health agencies and via different professionals, namely public health nurses. Next slide. Now we know that Make the Connection as a program is grounded in attachment theory, and I'm not going to go too much in detail because I think most people here today are likely familiar. But really, we're referring to the bond that exists between a caregiver and their infant. And this bond and relationship is established through a caregiver being consistently available and responsive. And this happens when an infant actually learns to rely on their caregiver and knows that their caregiver will always be there to be responsive towards them. And we know that establishing a secure attachment really builds a foundation for well-being in childhood, but also well-being and good mental health across the lifespan. Next slide. So Make the Connection itself is really, it's rooted in attachment-based principles. And that's ultimately the goal of the program, is really to help caregivers and their young children to establish these positive relationships. In terms of the research evidence that exists for the program, in 2017, there was an external evaluation conducted by Queen's University that looked at individuals who received the program and also those that were in a waitlist control. So compared people who got the program to people who didn't. And this was in person. And what they found was that Make the Connection was effective in promoting positive parent-infant attachment and helped increase parenting sense of competence and also their attitudes towards their infant. And so the key takeaway was actually, this is a really strong candidate for public health initiatives. It's an easy way for us to bring this information to parents and caregivers so that they can benefit from the positive outcomes. Next slide. And so this is just a little bit more information about that study, but there were 180 mothers who took part, and some of them were in the wait list. And this was all in person, and they used a variety of different scales to compare. Next slide. And so, you know, in addition to the evidence that's been provided from a research perspective, we also know that individuals who are actually using the program with families are finding it to be a great resource and very helpful. So this is just a quote from a program coordinator who says, with so much parenting information available online these days, it's easy for parents and caregivers to feel overwhelmed when looking for reliable sources. Make the Connection takes this burden off of families and provides an easy to navigate self-paced program with just the right balance of evidence-based information, self-reflection, strategies, and relevant practice opportunities that promotes a secure and loving connection between a parent, caregiver, and their child. And so this was actually an individual who participated in our pilot program because now the program's been pivoted and is being offered online ever since the pandemic, and is really finding that it's something that can be easily recommended to families so that they can access it themselves directly online. And this is a shift from it being typically previously offered in person. And so now the access is even greater, I think, really reducing barriers for families to be able to access it. Next slide. So in the development of the online program, we have since done we've done a pilot where it was actually delivered to individuals, and then they provided us some feedback, both in surveys, and also we conducted some focus groups to get this information. And what we found was that from parents who were using the online version of the program, they experienced a significant increase in their understanding of the parent-child attachment relationship. So that's great. People were actually gaining some knowledge and understanding. We also saw an increase in how successful people felt in their role as a parent. And that's great, because we know parenting self-confidence is a really important predictor of not only attachment, but also the parent-child relationship. And also some slight increases in caregivers feeling positive in their connection with their infant. And then in the qualitative focus groups, what we found was that generally people found the program content to be really reassuring. They liked how the pillars were divided into smaller sections, and we're going to give you a little bit of a preview of what that looks like. And then people also really highlighted some of the key pillars that they found to be most comprehensive and most easily accessible. Next slide. So these are just some quotes from professionals who were doing the pilot and using the program, as well as some parents. And so people just generally really liked how interactive it was, that they just found it to be really educational, gave some great examples, and that there were a variety of different strategies and real life stories that could also be used that people really liked. And I'm actually really looking forward to being able to see a bit of a preview of the program, because you'll see these things come to life shortly. Next slide. So this is just a little bit of information about the online program and the program details. And I think this will come to life shortly when Desiree gives us a bit of a walkthrough. But in essence, the program itself contains all evidence-based parenting skills programs. It was developed by psychologists. And the goal of the program is really to enhance the parent-infant relationship. Now, this is done in a few key ways. So the program itself is set up with 7 pillars. And talking about the 7 pillars of attachment, this is all adapted from what was delivered in person as part of the groups. And so you can see here what those different pillars are. And what they really do is they tap into those really key components of attachment, about how to foster a connection, being a secure base so that the infant feels comfortable coming into their caregiver. A lot of great information about emotions and feelings and how to accept those. Setting limits with love is, I think, one of my favorite pillars. Really talks about in those challenging times where you do need to set limits and have boundaries, how to do that. Promoting conversations and language, and then also a pillar around play. And each pillar itself is actually subdivided into the same section. So that's really great, because the structure is always the same. People know what to anticipate and what to see. So you learn a little bit about what each pillar means, why it's important. There's a self-reflection process. Stories are embedded, as well as key strategies and activities that can be practiced. Maybe what some roadblocks or things about it that might not be easy, and then milestones depending on age. And so through this, parents and caregivers really learn and acquire key strategies that help them to form a secure bond with their infant, and then learn some really nice coping techniques to be able to enable healthy attachment opportunities. So now what I'll do is I'll pass things over to Desiree, who's actually going to tell us a little bit more about the program and also walk us through a little bit.
Thank you, Nicole. So before we press play on this, I'm just going to speak to what we're about to do, and then we can, and then after that, this slide, what else we'll be showing you with respect to the program. So I actually do have the privilege of getting to show you this amazing program and how easy it is to use. Instead of us opening up the program in a different slide and trying to negotiate my talking and showing you the program at the same time, we've actually recorded a video to show you a bit of a demo of how it looks. It is going to be a little bit quick. You might have some questions about it. And the great news is that at the end of this, you do have access to this program, so you can go in there and play as well. And so that's going to be wonderful too. You can actually have a good look at it. So without further ado, maybe we can press play on this and I can show you a little bit of this program. So of course, when you first get to the program, you would log in, create a user. And it's going to open up to a dashboard. And when you get to that dashboard, what Nicole was just showing you with all of the different pillars, that's going to pop up in a moment. So our demo here is going to actually scroll down and show you each one of those 7 pillars. And if we go into the setting limits with loved one, you're going to see all those pieces that we were just describing in the overview. So what it means, why it's important, a reflection piece. There's always a story, strategies, activities, a reflection on it's not always easy as well. So we'll talk about the milestone piece in a moment. So our demo actually shows you the activities piece. There's always a video. So she's going to show you that quickly. And at the end of the video, there's a little opportunity to do a quiz. So we actually have that quiz right at the end. It's very quick, very straightforward. And then scrolling down, we always have some activities. And there's a couple of songs on here. I can tell you as a parent, I did this one myself.
This one's gonna help you through thousands of diaper changes. Changing diapers, so much fun, so much fun. You're no longer stinky, you're no longer stinky. Nice clean bum, nice clean bum.
Just gonna pause it for a second, actually. What I saw recently was very interesting. I was doing baby sign language. This is a solid 2 years ago, and that song was used in the baby sign language class as well. And so, you know, there's wonderful ways for you to pull in pieces of this program as well into your everyday work. So we'll move on to the next part of it. There's always some book recommendations. And then what's really nice is there's a downloadable section here too at the end where you can actually print off everything for this part. So we're just going to mute the next part because I know it's going to actually walk you through milestones. Milestones are a really neat section because each one of the pillars has it broken down what you should be expecting at certain milestones. I found this part really, really nice as a parent and also a professional to kind of reflect on where my child might be at when we're, you know, in a certain pillar. Further down, I know I'm speeding through, I'm trying to keep up with the demo, so I apologize for that. In the resource section, you're also going to have some really neat things you can pull from. As a professional, I can tell you that this would be something I would be pulling a lot, especially if I do single sessions or I have drop-ins. This is really a great opportunity to kind of pull a nice printable, downloadable item to give to a family. The toolbox also has some Q&A, with some scenario question and answers, which I also think is really nice. And it also is, you know, following the pillars. So I know that what we just did was speed you through what the actual program looks like. And so what I thought would be really nice is to actually show what one of those videos looks like. So the next slide, we're actually going to show you the what it means video for setting limits with love. So you can have a bit more of an understanding of what it looks like.
What does it mean to set limits with love? Parents have always been expected to teach their children how to behave. Part of that job is setting limits, teaching children what kind of behavior is okay and which behaviors are not okay. We can set limits for our children by doing normal, everyday things like establishing daily routines, baby-proofing the home for safety, helping children to learn to wait for things they want, teaching manners, and limiting screen time. Children learn limits best from people they trust and love. Click on the words for detail on ways that you can teach and enforce limits to your children. Respond to big feelings and misbehavior in a calm, caring, and understanding way. Focus on teaching and safety rather than punishment and control. Teach and praise good behavior. Still allow your child to explore and try new things safely. Do not harm your child's sense of self-worth.
So I think this video is a really nice example of what each pillar has to offer. Part of the what I really enjoy is, when you do the program yourself as a parent, even if you're a professional in this field, one of the things that, it doesn't matter how many times I've watched it, I go, oh yeah, that. It's your own experiences of how you were parented, of what you saw as a child, of other people really start to come out. And one of the nice things in this program is there's a lot of opportunities for reflection. When I get into the next slide, which we're not going to go to just yet, we'll walk through what we've heard from parents about what they would like to see more of from professionals, as well as how they have found this helpful. But I also thought it would be a good opportunity to say, that it is challenging when you're co-parenting, and when you are the one that's doing this program and maybe your partner isn't. And so I can tell you from my own experience, and something I would relay back is, it was very helpful for me to have those downloadables. And so I was actually able to print things off. And I know we've heard this from other individuals, and put them up on the fridge, and to also have a conversation starter with a grandparent, for example, where they may not have the same understanding of what I'm trying to achieve with my child, or what your client or patient or caregiver is trying to achieve with their child. So there's some really great opportunities in the program where you don't have to try to do everything all at once. And, you can maybe say, this parent is going to do the whole program. This parent, I'm only seeing them, for an hour today, so I'm going to print them off some stuff. This parent is not very good with online materials, so I'm just going to do X for them, show them the videos, what have you. So it's very adaptable. What I also really like, and I'm sure we can all relate to this, it is a very user-friendly program. So you're not going to be walking in as a professional trying to remember how to navigate this. It looks like just like any other program or e-learning course you've done, if not easier. So I just wanted to also throw that out there, that I do recognize that can come up. I know it's anything online can be a bit anxiety inducing, especially even for myself. So just throwing that out there as well. And I hope that demonstration kind of alleviated some of that, to see it's very easy to walk through. So we can move to the next slide. So extensive user feedback was gathered in reviewing this program. And what we did was, in preparing for this webinar, was kind of go through some of the main buckets of feedback that came from the parents that did complete it. I think it's helpful to discuss it in terms of two things. We have parents on, in this webinar today, and we also have professionals, and we have both. And so it's kind of helpful to say, for the parents, this is what, might make things feel better. And also for the professionals, how you can consider these pieces when you're promoting or you're using this program. So caregivers of and parents of your 0 to 3 children, they did identify that it can be hard to sit down and do a parenting program. I can tell you from my own experience, I had a child in 2021, and there was all prenatal classes, everything was all pushed to online. And they were very lengthy and often impersonal. What I love about Make the Connection is each one of those pillars is about 7 to 12 minutes, very, very digestible and easy to take. Engaging, it keeps you, interested, and it's also not telling you things that are not relatable. And it's also easier to manage as a professional because you're not having to fit in huge chunks of stuff into your interventions. It's actually much more manageable in your interactions if you do decide to use it in tandem with your work. Caregivers also said that they do appreciate when the program has a coaching aspect. So when somebody's able to phone them to follow up on how did it go? How did that reflection exercise go? Or what are you liking about it? What aren't you liking about it? What did you practice from this week? If we go back to the setting limits with loved one, which is a very common one for people to say, and there's a whole, massive amount of reasons that could be a more challenging pillar for somebody. It's taking a small piece of that and saying, well, how did you do that this week? And caregivers overwhelmingly said, I just needed somebody to call me and follow up on that. So that's also some really good feedback to take with you. Songs and activities, having an opportunity to watch your caregiver trying out the new song or an activity and help them, encourage them how to do that again. We presented this back in May and had the professionals try to do some of the activities that are in the program. And so it's also really helpful to kind of watch it in advance and say, okay, well, what could I bring into a session that maybe a parent or a caregiver would appreciate? We also know it can be a bit challenging for parents, but not just parents, any adult, to flip their brain over to how a child might think or to want to play. It can be very challenging. So parents and caregivers also said that this was a very helpful part. They also didn't realize that you can use, your everyday items to make some kind of an activity for your child at home. The reflection exercises were also seen as very helpful to parents and easy to do. The questions are very straightforward. They're easy for a parent to consider, but also for a professional to have a conversation with a caregiver. And they allow an opportunity to get to know their potential parenting style. Often, we have found, I'm sure many of you have also experienced this, that parents really haven't reflected on what their style is, or how they may want to parent, or how they've kind of don't really think about it. They're just going through the motions. And so the reflection exercises, there was a lot of feedback about this being quite an aha moment for people and very, very helpful exercise. Celebrating successes. So the program allows parents an opportunity to celebrate those successes with quizzes. There's a certificate at the end. There was a lot of positive feedback around that. And as a professional, also reflecting with the parent when they have used something and celebrating this can be very helpful. So, I'm sure we've all, been there where if you've done something that you learned and it worked with your child, be it a new sleep regime or a potty training or setting a new limit, and all of a sudden it clicks. We have to take a pause for a moment to celebrate that success. So these are the sorts of things that parents were really, reflective of after they completed this program and offered feedback on. I think from my own perspective, something that I really appreciated about it, and I did do this when I was a sleep deprived parent, and I can tell you, I found it actually a very reassuring program, a very positive and hopeful program. It wasn't challenging to do, and also, some of us don't, it doesn't matter how long we've been in the field. Some of us have no idea what songs to do or books to read that are still relevant. And so it also gave a fresh perspective on things, for us to re-engage with the 0 to 3 community and their parents. So really appreciated that feedback from parents. And my hope would be that this would be something easy you can also bring into the work that you do. Before we close off, I'm not sure, Nicole, if you have anything else you'd like to add or speak to.
That's been great, Desiree.
So I'm going to pass it back over to Siobhan then.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Desiree and Nicole. So hopefully you learned a little more about our Make the Connection program. And from now until December 31st, parents and caregivers and professionals can access the program at no cost through generous funding from Hodgson Family Foundation. You can use the QR code on the screen, or you can visit www.makingtheconnectionmatters.com. I'm wondering, we have Mackenzie on, would you mind typing that in the chat? Just the link to makingtheconnectionmatters.com, if possible. And basically when you go there, you click on add to cart, and then you'll see that this yellow box pops up. You type the coupon code MTCHFF, then I click apply coupon, then fill in the rest of your sign up information and click place order. After that, check your email inbox for a confirmation message and more instructions. We also recommend that you please check your junk or spam mail in case the message goes there. Okay, so we'll now provide an opportunity for you to ask some questions. Please remember to click on the Q&A button at the bottom and type in your question there. Also, in order for us to continue to provide these free webinars, we would really, really, really appreciate if you could please take a minute or two. It's really short to fill out a very quick questionnaire for us. We'll put the link also to the questionnaire in the chat box, and this helps us to understand how beneficial these webinars are for you. So with that, thank you. And we'll pass it over for some Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Siobhan. So we do have a few questions, mostly around logistics of using this program. So the first question is, after December 31st, is there a cost for parents to sign up to use the program?
I can answer that. At this point, so the program itself is a $50 value. At this point, we do have some potential funding to offer this at no cost after the fact, but we're still working that out. So there's potential funding there to still access the program at no cost, but please use this coupon code until December 31st.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Another question, is there a time frame we can access the program after signing up? So it sounds like if someone signs up now, but say they don't get around to actually engaging with the program until January, will they be kicked out of the program, or how does that work?
I can take it too. Okay, so how the program works, usually what you'll get when you sign up, we call it a drip feed. So each week you will get access to one of the pillars. The reason we do it that way is because we got feedback from parents. It said it's digestible that way instead of all of the program all at once. But to answer your question, once you get those pillars, even if you don't complete them, they're yours. They'll just keep popping up until you get access to the program. So I love that part of the program where you can just do it, take it at your own pace. So it's yours.
Awesome. Thank you. For anyone else, if you have any more questions for those listening in, please do type them in the Q&A chat. I know we do have some coming in the general webinar chat, but if you could please direct them to the Q&A, that would be wonderful. So thank you very much. We have a question for Desiree. as an RP, have you thought about promoting MTC to RPs and psychotherapists in Canada who support parents who have infants and want to help with bonding and attachment?
I love this question because in my bio, which I always cringe whenever I have to hear it, because I just it's funny, but it did help me remember I'm actually involved with the Ontario Association of Mental Health Professionals, and so because of that reminder, I have actually mentioned that is something that we need to bring to them. They are a massive network, plus there's the other association for psychotherapy in our province. And I think we can't, these are entities that absolutely would be interested in this kind of professional development. They're not the only ones. So my role obviously is to bring those things forward, having this connection between Strong Minds, Strong Kids and our Ontario Association. And I think it's also really helpful if any of you are on the line and are interested in sort of sharing that information with your networks and communities, the people that work with the 0 to 3, that's also something that we would encourage as well. I can tell you a lot of when we did this at a conference in May, there was a lot of excitement about having access to this. You can never have enough tools in the toolbox. So I appreciate the question. It's a good reminder for me. And also I would encourage that if you have a network that you're, that are your 0 to 3 individuals, you're absolutely welcome to share it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Desiree. And another question from Olivia is, do you have resources for therapists who are interested in supporting a parent in completing this program? For example, questions to ask in reflection, coaching. If we can speak a little bit to that, that would be wonderful. Just a question for either or any of you, really.
That's a good question. So I answered in the chat, Olivia, but really good question. Right now, we do offer MTC e-learning program that's specifically for professionals. I typed the link in the chat there. But we're also in the process of developing what a resource would look like for professionals in order to support this direct-to-parent offering. So we're still in the process of doing that, but more to come. But for now, I would redirect you to our e-learning MTC e-course for professionals.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Mackenzie, can I just add, actually, if you go into the course as well, this one, you can actually draw from it things that you can also discuss with your families. So there's reflection questions, there's there's activities and stuff that you can actually pull from that might be something you can give to your parent as well, or use with your parent as well.
Awesome. And Anne put in the Q&A, when does the program start and end, and days and times as well. So Anne, just to clarify, it's an asynchronous online program. So that means you can do it on your own time. There's no start time. There's no end time. You can kind of filter through those pillars at your own pace. So I hope that answered your question. If not, type another one in and we'll get to it. And we have another question from Claire, who says, I'm an RP with OSRP, which is another potential network to approach. Do you have a plan to offer training to mental health professionals?
Right, that's a good question. So I would say same thing. We're sort of in a transition period now. Like, what does this coaching training look like for mental health professionals and for those working? So we have these brilliant pieces. We have our original 9-week Make the Connection in-person program, which is a great program because some folks may need that in person with the direct-to-parent online. Some parents might just want to do online. So we're just trying to piece that all together now, all of these great things, and sort of we're thinking a menu of options so professionals can support like a wraparound according to what the parent needs. So more to come. I wish I could say, yeah, we have something to give you right now, but we are working on it. We just launched Make the Connection Direct to Parent in the new year. So it's relatively still new. So more to come. We're working on it.
Thanks, Siobhan. kind of leads into our next question, which I feel like the answer is going to be very similar, but Inik asks, any plans to extend the program to older children and their developmental stages?
Yeah, and that's a really good question because just for context, the work that we do, it ranges from the entire lifespan from kids 0 to 18, right? So Make the Connection is really for 0 to 3. And then as we move into kindergarten, all those, it turns into stress management and resiliency. That's sort of where our scope is. So we offer our Kids Have Stress 2 program, typically, and I can put the link to some of these resources. That's from kindergarten right up to grade 6. And then we have stress lessons programs for teens in order to do stress management. How do you cope? How do you work with your skills? We have a whole bunch of different resources. We also offer a Thrivelandia program, an online program. And again, I'll put the link on that specifically takes from stress management and coping, and it's kind of like 2.0 resiliency, right? And then it has a parent piece in there too. How can I support my young person with their resiliency as well, and work with that? So I can type all those resources in the chat for you if that would be helpful.
Awesome. I think that would be great. Another question coming in, is MTC program delivered to people that are trained in this, or is the program and going through the 7 pillars self-explanatory? Concerned that management will say in order to use the program with our parents, you need to be trained. What are your thoughts?
So again, this is a direct to parent, right? So the intention of this program is for a parent, any parent, to be able to go on. It's very self-explanatory and use it. I mean, really what we're trying to develop now is like an enhancement piece for professionals. So you really do need to be trained to use it. Right now, to Desiree's point, you can use some of the resources like the handouts and everything if that will be helpful to your parents. But we have all this wealth of knowledge for professionals. And again, with our e-learning that we have, that we're trying to merge into something specifically for professionals to be trained on how to use this direct to parent resource the most effectively.
And I'd also add that, I work frontline and management, and I can tell you that, there's been many times where something like this, you would use pieces of it, to Siobhan's point, to support a client. So that what it means video, I could 100% see myself sitting down with a family and showing them this lovely, digestible, easy, video. It's quick, it's not taking up the entire intervention. And I'm not walking them through 7 pillars. I'm not going through it where I may need a little bit more training to do that. I'm just pulling out that video because it's going to really help them. Especially if you have a person that's really struggling with something like particularly around setting limits or baby, play, or baby language, pardon me, I'm mixing up my pillars here. And you might say, you know what, I really like this video because it shows a scenario that, because there are scenario videos in there that you just spoke to. And I think that we can actually watch this together and have a discussion about it afterwards. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, you should check in with your management and supervisor, but just on a personal level and a clinical one, I think that that's actually quite appropriate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping in, Desiree. I'd like to switch gears now and talk a little bit about building secure attachments. So how do you foster secure attachment when your baby goes to daycare and you go back to work?
So I can answer that question. I'm assuming this question actually is coming from a parent. And I can relate because you may have seen from the photo at the beginning, I have a 5-year-old and a 4-month-old, and I'm actually going full-time back to work in January. So this is top of mind for me also. So what we know about the attachment relationship is actually that, so it's something that's built and fostered over time from a ongoing and continued interaction with your infant or baby, and that really it's being contingently responsive to them when you are the person that's with them, and that they have a safe and well-grounded relationship with you. Of course, infants can develop attachment relationships with more than one person. And so ideally, that's something that you see happen with a caregiver or, daycare professional or other caregiver. Of course, most infants usually have primary attachments to their primary caregivers, which can be, usually are their parents. And so, although a child may be transitioning to daycare, they will learn over time that the grown-ups who love and care for them, they come back and they pick them up. And really, those are the caregivers usually when the attachment system is activated, like when they're sick or when they're hurt or when something big like that happens. Those are actually the caregivers who continue to be there for them. Even though there may be 8 hours a day or something like that, that they're in childcare, there's a lot of other hours of the day that where parents are the ones on deck. And so I think just knowing and being reassured that it's very much possible to maintain a healthy and secure attachment with your child as they transition to and continue to go to childcare. I will also say that in some of my previous research, we've shown that attending childcare is really important for kids' social emotional development and for school readiness. So if you're needing any reassurance about making that choice from a professional perspective, I can provide you with that.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Just kind of feeding off of that question, because you spoke to infants building attachments with more than one person, though you spoke to having a primary person. I'm wondering what role grandparents play in building positive attachments.
Yeah, that is a really great question. And of course, it's always amazing and wonderful if you can have those intergenerational relationships be part of a child's life. And as I mentioned, you can, form strong and positive bonds with many caregivers. And so grandparents can absolutely play a key role in that. And oftentimes, grandparents can be really delightful relationship for children to have, because I think being a grandparent, you get to lean in maybe in ways that sometimes, parents were more concerned with the limit setting and, making sure that kids are developing into good human beings. Grandparents sometimes get to indulge, I think, a little bit more and are at a different stage of life often where they maybe have some more time or also just the wisdom, right? And so I think it's really wonderful when kids can benefit from those wise relationships. And sometimes in different care situations, grandparents may be the primary caregiver for a child. And of course, that's absolutely wonderful also.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nicole. So we do have a question in the Q&A chat. It's a little bit, I'm going to pivot away from kind of what we've been talking about, but can you provide either of you any information, I believe, for providing support for children or infants with special needs in regards to building secure attachments?
Yeah, so one thing I can say specifically about Make the Connection. So right now we're actually conducting an evaluation, a trial of the online version of the intervention. And we are including children who present with special needs also, and we will know whether or not they do or don't have special needs and be able to kind of see how their caregivers progress through the intervention and any kind of feedback or adaptations that they suggest that we should make. The one thing that I will say, and I know we're referring to special needs here, I think would be highly dependent on the child and what their special needs might be. For example, whether it's like a developmental disability or maybe presenting with autism spectrum disorder. And many times, parents often have a really good sense themselves and are an expert in their child's needs. And I think what we hope from this being direct to parent is that parents can see the parts that are going to work for them and their baby, and the parts that maybe less so might not work as well. And there's a lot of acknowledgement of that in the program itself. And so, yeah, I think none of it is meant to be a blueprint that would apply to everyone, but really the core ideas and principles that people can integrate. And certainly positive interaction, building positive relationship, enjoyment in the parent-child interaction, play. I think regardless of a child's needs, those are all things that are beneficial both for parents and for children. So those are kind of the universal principles that the program plays off of.
Thank you. And just for our final question, just because it's nearing the end. So this is a question for both of you. Just out of curiosity, what is your favorite part of the Make the Connection program, or perhaps what you believe is the most valuable tidbit or piece of information that you notice that you'd like to bring attention to?
You want to go first, Desiree?
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a great question. Mackenzie, I think, that was a gold star one. I'm trying to think of something that, there's a few things that stood out to me. So I'll just kind of say the one. I'm going to take my professional hat off actually for a second. I think that the one that really stood out to me as a parent that, I love to say this because it's true. We had our child later in life, and I worked for the last few years mostly with 7 to 17, and thought that I would still be pretty much a rock star with a baby. I mean, on the mental health level. And I had a baby, and the practical stuff went out the window. And I can't tell you how much I appreciated the people at the Early On centers, and just them bringing me down to, bringing me back to the basics. And I think in this program, there's a lot of stuff that you can't understate, like the songs, an activity that is just like, oh my gosh, that's so simple. And so, but the impact was quite huge. I took pictures of my daughter kind of like playing with things that I'm like, I would have never thought of that before. There was a book I ended up reading on mindful discipline that I got out of this program. So it's these small tidbits that I think was the most powerful for me as a parent.
I agree. I think even people will see I play a role in recording some of the video that's in the intervention. And I think both in doing that process and being aware of the program myself as a parent, one of the parts I really that resonated with me is actually in each section that it's not always easy part, just because it's really validating that actually being a parent is challenging. And, even as a child psychologist, I think sometimes people are like, oh, do you integrate what you know professionally into your real life? I'm like, I wish, it's not easy. It's really challenging to be a parent. And so I think just that validation part and throughout the program is great. And similar to Desiree, I think a lot of the resources around some of the songs and books and things like that are enjoyable. And if you haven't been exposed to those in the past, or you haven't been in environments where you're more encouraged to do some of those play-based components, I think this program can be really helpful.
Wonderful. Thank you both so much for sharing your perspective from both the professional side and also the personal side. I found it very engaging and relatable, and I like that kind of going back to the basics. You don't have to overcomplicate anything. Sometimes that's the last thing that you need when you're trying to juggle a million other things. So thank you so much. That was wonderful. Siobhan, I'll pass it back to you.
No, I think we're good. Thank you for all of these excellent questions. We hope you make use of the coupon code and that you check out the Make the Connection program for yourself. And again, thank you, Nicole and Desiree. We hope everybody has a
Thanks
wonderful day.
Thanks
See
so
you
much,
later.
everyone.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.